What's up? Welcome to Nacht Waffen Pilot. And we have Danette Doby back. And since it's been a week or two, I'm going to reread her bio. So bear with me while my tongue trips over this. SSP experiencer and asset, Danette Doby was born into the program genetically and psionically enhanced to be the ultimate super soldier. Her original training began with Project Mountain Sky, an enhancement of her remote sensing abilities. At a young age, she was in a program called Project Talon that performed frontline counter-military intervention for temporal terrorism, past and future events in the Time Wars. As a Chief Warrant Officer in the United States Marine Corps Special Section, she was deployed in a program called Combat Program Against Terrorism, CPAT, on Earth and off-planet. Danette's training is in anti-terrorism and specialized psionic black ops, where it is a rare combination to be a field operational psionic soldier combining fundamental psionic training and brute force. Her most close to home missions on Earth in the SSP were when she was assigned in the Human Smuggling and Traffic Center, HSTC, NSA, and FBI counterintelligence teams to find child traffickers, pedophiles, human trafficking, and investigating Pizzagate. This led to working with the National Security Analysis Center as a security and informational analyst liaising with the Foreign Terrorist Trafficking Task Force. That's a mouthful. These successful experiences in her Earth missions led Danette off-world into the Solar Warden stationed on the Talladega as a first-class assigning officer, where she explored many deep space missions. From there, she went into the Farragut. Those are ships, by the way, guys, where she trained the incoming crews on battle strategy and wargame simulation to prepare them for space battles. Danette's current activation is in the Special Air Mars Services as a paratrooper third class command officer located near the Jupiter Commerce Spaceport and Mars Space Station. Here she is test piloting and training the new cadets with the newly built Tomahawk battlecruiser before they will be launched for active duty in the Special Air Mars Services Space Fleet battalions. With a lifelong enlistment and numerous deployments of 20, 30, 60, and greater terms of service, she has accumulated various different ranks and responsibilities. Welcome back, Danette.
Thanks for having me. We'll see how long I last this time.
Yeah. Last time we had several internet drops and a surprise from Zoom that we couldn't even finish. So.
Right. And this time I see things are glitching once again. And since the last time we've talked, it's been a challenging adventure, I would say, up until this interview as well. It's not so enjoyable putting yourself out there, and you start receiving the energy attacks. You start getting more of the visits during the night. I've had 3 very large, dark individuals come into my room yanked me from my hair off of my bed, dragged me off of my bed, almost like in a caveman style, and jabbed me in the neck with something to knock me out. And then next thing I do, I wake up and there's bruises and puncture marks all over me. And an echoing voice saying that I should shut my mouth and not talk anymore. And I shouldn't be doing these interviews. So that's the fun experience I've been having these past few weeks.
Yeah, I had that the first year that I was public. And during that time, they killed 2 people that were on the team that activated my memories. So the folks out there who think that this is a fun game, it isn't.
No.
And
I remember the first time I talked, the brakes went out on my vehicle. Just recently, it was like an electric blast had went onto my vehicle this time. So I just got it out of the shop yesterday. Yeah, it hasn't been fun at all. And it's one of those things where you really get messed with on a continuous basis. I mean, it's been day in and day out. Every night there's something. And for me not to have this interview, and I'm like, I've hardly said anything. You know, I'm being very, very cautious. And then it's like, what are they worried? What are they worried about that I'm going to talk about now? But they did warn me that if I continued on, that things aren't going to get pretty for me. So.
Well, on my end, since you were here, all 4 brakes and rotors went out on my car.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to get them fixed before there was an accident. And my car has 4-wheel drive, so it cost extra. But this is what the life of a whistleblower is. So I do tell people ahead of time, count the cost before you go public. And I do, people think that people think that this is a fun and games and that everything's going to be all right, and it's not. Mm-mm. People think that they're going to make money. You don't. People think that you're going to be rich and famous. You're going to be infamous and not be able to get a normal job afterwards. Mm-hmm. And your kids are going to be made fun of if you get to keep them. This is not something that your life is going to be rosy after you come public. And I try to tell people this ahead of time. Right. And some of them have come back to me a year later and said, you were right, but so-and-so, fill in the blank, said you were just jealous. Mm. Oh my fucking God, what have I got to be jealous about?
Right, everybody has their own standalone thing. I mean,
it's if you're coming out and telling the truth as you know it, and you're willing to take the heat for that, I salute you. I'm not jealous in the slightest. Just make sure you're telling the truth so you don't make the rest of us look bad.
Right. And the only reason why I came forward is with my experiences. I wanted to make sure that they're ones that are unique, the ones that I like to talk about. But also if there's someone that also can remember it also, like what we were talking about, a shared memory. Yeah. So you're not alone in this. You know, I have a couple of people that I have shared memories with that it made it not so isolating. You know, yeah. we one can start on the conversation and then the other one can end it or fill in the pieces. So that was very nice. and then my biggest thing was, everybody in the community coming together as a unity. We're all stronger.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
I'm like,
I keep hearing
stronger together.
Come together, but the trouble
Mm-hmm.
with that is there are at least 6 factions out there.
Right.
And once you remember which faction you were in, the programming, the oorah kicks in. Mm-hmm. And that's when the infighting starts. It's my faction's better than your faction, and you're the enemy, you're the bad guy, blah, 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 blah. I want to settle that right from the get-go. We were all kidnapped children who were assigned to these places. Not one of us picked them. So telling any of us that we're the bad guy because of where we got assigned is bullshit.
Right.
It's just like the regular military. Once you're in, they put you where they want you.
Mm-hmm. What your skill set is.
Exactly. And I don't understand why people are saying Nacht Waffen is the enemy and Solar Warden is wonderful, and that Alliance, which is ICC, is suddenly wonderful because they changed their name. And then you've got the mercenary companies, Kruger and Monarch, and you've got the Department of Defense programs that have made it into space. Mm-hmm. And yet all of these people have this mindset of, mine's the best and everybody else sucks. And I'm like, why?
Man, can't we all just get along?
Well, you and I have met real world.
Yeah.
And you felt the energy change when I came into the room. It was like a Vietnam vet convention, and suddenly a Viet Cong walks in.
Right. Everybody just
yeah, they did. They just yeah. So I mean, I find that completely amusing because real world, I'm 66, I'm disabled. I was using a walker with a seat in it, and people were still terrified of me.
And see, I'm a very quiet personal person. I keep to myself. I really don't stand out there or go out and make any noise. I'm just kind of like the quiet one out in the back, So I don't know how else to say why I came forward other than it just was, it was like an overwhelming, like compulsion. Like I had to come out and I had to talk about certain things. And I feel like since I have talked about a few things, I feel like, okay, I'm good. I said what I needed to say. But then, man, on top of everything else that I've had these past few weeks, I'm like, maybe I want to just step back again.
I can understand that.
It's
when I was first public, I would have been perfectly happy to be in a small private Facebook group doing group counseling with other people with shared memories. I would have been perfectly happy doing just that. And they had to start shooting at me with energy weapons. And they got blue with it at least once. And the third time I got shot, we decided that, Bill Cooper had said, if you know they're going to kill you, hide in the spotlight. That's the only reason I went public. But what I was trying to do was, first off, help the other people with memories live with them, because we had a real high suicide rate at that point.
Mhm. Yeah, when that gets triggered, it's almost impossible not to follow through on it.
Yeah.
When it triggers for me, I am repetitively shown a certain image, and then the intensity to follow through on it is extremely overwhelming. And it gets to a point where it doesn't matter if you're going to talk to somebody, you're going to do something. If you're, the whole point of it is for you to follow through on that.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to not do it.
And that, folks, is what the community is calling Omega programming. Mm-hmm. Omega as in end it. Mm-hmm. And all of us have it at some level. And it's usually triggered by remembering things they don't want remembered, or by talking about it. Mm-hmm. So people who want to back off, you know, I mean, we're kind of committed to talking about something for this 2 hours, but I'm not going to force you to talk about anything you don't want to talk about. I mean, it's your life at risk.
Right. I just haven't, you know, I've been very cautious. I really have been just skimming the top on things. So
I've noticed that.
Yeah, I've been really making sure I'm not going in-depth detail on anything. And then what I do talk about, I don't understand why the internet would fizz out on us, because it's still not saying much of anything, but at least it's holding up right now. So that's good for the moment.
It's holding up because you said you wanted to back off.
Yeah.
I mean, they got what they wanted, they think. They're waiting to see what you do next.
Right. What am I going to talk about next, right?
Yeah.
So remote viewing. That's some good stuff.
Remote viewing should be something simple, yeah.
So I used a lot of remote viewing with the child trafficking, locating pedophiles, groups, the cells, children, locations. Also with your own intuitive sensory, where you can look in and psychically see things happen.
Are you okay? When
I just got
when I do remote viewing, I'm not very good at that. I tend to slide into bilocation.
I was just gonna say I bilocate.
Okay, I was trying to ask if that was what you were doing.
Yeah, I bilocate, but I can also get within that person's mind, and I know what they think, I know how they feel, I know their intentions.
So you're bilocating into the person.
I can do that as well, but I can also go to a location. And for one perpetrator that I was locating, I literally got into their mind, and I knew what decisions they were going to make, where they were going to go, where they were going to be. And then I could then guide them to go turn down a certain road, go down a certain alleyway, which then I would have a team waiting there to pick them up. That's one of the things. And then for other bilocations, let's see, how do I want to say this? I entered into a government facility, and as I entered it, in this room, there was a controller who sensed me and held me off to the side for me not to move. So kind of like capturing me and holding me in place. But within this room, it was my brigadier general who was standing there, and the controller had told him what was happening, and he said, let her go. But in front of me were remote viewers, and what they were doing at the time is they were remote viewing me. And the information they were given, that they were receiving about me, they would hand it off to, I call him a runner. They would hand it off to a runner. The runner would give it to my brigadier general, but also there on a wall, they had 3 different sections, and they were in different colors. And within those things, they would put my missions on there. So it was like top classified, not classified, just ordinary things, but where I've been, what I've been doing. And I could just see it all on the side of the wall there. So he allowed me to stand there and watch the whole process of them dissecting me pretty much. And then when they were all finished, he then motioned for me to go and follow him. And off around the corner, there's the whole wall was a portal.
Ah.
An entire portal was there. And he says, well, you can come with me. I'll wait a while for you to get here. You can come with me. And he wanted me to meet a friend. Okay, so obviously I'm there in the room. We go through the portal. And now before we go through the portal, he's telling me, now this is your last chance. You can either go through this or not go through this. You know, here's what it ended up being is they were reactivating me into a different section, and if I wanted to do it or not. And oh, look at my thing glitched. So we ended up going through it, and the room that we were in felt like it was on Earth and underground. And one of the bases here, underground. But when we went through the portal, we were out on a space station. Far away. Just like that, just stepping through the wall in. There we are, walking down the hallways.
That's something that our audience probably will have issues with, because most of them think that we're still in the rocket stage.
You know, putting on a show for everybody.
Yeah, we haven't been in the rocket stage since, I'd say, the 1940s.
I was going to say 40s, yeah.
Yeah, since then, anything that has rockets is for show.
Mm-hmm.
Because the real work is being done with portals.
Mm-hmm.
Stargate,
you just take a step and there you are. Yeah.
The Stargate show is much more realistic than NASA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we have beautiful space stations out there that, you know, have all kinds of things on them. Nice shiny little things.
Nice shiny toys.
Right. But this space station that we went on to is pure white. And it wasn't the one that looked like an inverted teardrop. There's one that looks like a teardrop that has like a ring around it where you can dock on it. This was a different one. And with this one, there is a platform that you can enter onto, and I guess there's like personal vehicles, you know, there's because we went on to his personal vehicle, which flies. And
Yeah.
we went through a
I
jump.
have flown those.
Right, which, you know, I don't know, nice little luxury vehicle.
I have interviewed someone that I call him Herr Mayor because he cannot be public.
Uh-huh.
And we were assigned a commandeered personal vehicle. So I don't know what this person, for lack of a better term, he looked like an Ewok and he was angry all the time. And it was his ship, and he was with us as the mechanic, but it was his ship we had commandeered. And I spent 15 years on that ship. So I know that they have yacht class vehicles out there that are personal luxury items.
Yeah, they are.
So when you're describing this, yes, this fits with what I experienced. So,
yeah,
you know, like you said at the beginning, overlapping memories.
Right. Well, then, yes, which was really cool. And then we ended up going through a jump gate, and it took us to a planet that the only way that you could survive on it is through a domed atmosphere. So it was.
There's lots of those out there.
Yeah. So the buildings were pure white. Everything was white. It was like white on white. They had their own water flow, and everybody dressed white. So it was monochromed, you know, white on white on white.
Thinking about those places give me a headache.
And we ended up going into an office area, and the friend who he wanted me to meet was a friend of mine who I had served with. And he was, I laugh at him because I said, "Oh, are you the mayor of the city?" You know, and because that was pretty much his, he had a high authority in the area there. And what they wanted me to do was start training troops not to waste my experience and my skill, and to actually pass it on to others. Just the knowledge after all of the terms of service, all of the, I mean, just everything that I knew, they wanted me to start passing that on and start training others. So that was what that one whole experience of just bilocating into one room, and it led to that, you know. And then the next thing, you know, the brigadier general, he leaves me there, and then I ended up then portaling onto a ship, and then on that ship, then I met 10 recruits, and they looked like teenagers, you know. They were young.
They were older than when I was.
And
we were prepubescent when I was sent. So teenagers are quite a bit older.
Yeah, these were teenagers. And I laughed at them because I remember saying, "Oh, you guys are fresh off the rack." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, they're in some inhabited bodies there, you know, because they're all fresh off the rack." And I remember also telling them if anybody had any vanity issues, everybody was going to shave their heads, and they were all going to strip down because, you know, hair is a luxury. It's not necessary. Their priority is to be a soldier.
That. I don't remember where, but some of the folks out there that remember me have told me that I got mad on one ship and shaved my head.
It was here I am telling them I was going to have them shave off their heads if they had used any vanity. That it was a luxury. It was not a necessity. It was not a necessity. They were only a soldier, and that's all they were there to be, was a soldier. Anything else came after that. I was pretty tough and stern and oof.
Reinforcing the concept that they were property rather than individuals.
Yeah, very much so. And
that's a big thing out there, that you are their property. You are there for the duration of however long they intend to keep you, and that you have no say in the matter. And
right, because they would just cycle through.
yeah.
But I remember this group very closely. And, you know, I'm not there to be their friend. I'm there to teach them how to survive. I'm there to teach them skills. I taught them to be more of a unit, not to have individuality.
Yeah.
Because they were each, you know, like a faucet of a wheel, you know, they were each a point, and they all had to work together to make it function properly. And yeah, that was pretty intense. And I put them through some grueling training. And when I felt that they were at a stage that I approved of, then we would then take them onto the real world battles, because there was always something going on.
Oh yeah.
So we would get then transferred over there. I would give them their orders and then watch them, see what they would do. And they better not fail.
Do you know what faction that was? Was that?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I don't. But
I know that there are 6 extraterrestrial wars out there that have absolutely nothing to do with us. And yet we have soldiers on both sides of all of them. So there's always somewhere something, and it's usually nasty.
Yeah, it's not fun. I mean, you face things that would, a very strong person would shake in fear. I mean, sometimes you would never know what you would come across. And
or what would be sentient.
Right.
Like you may be sitting on a rock that's sentient, and it may decide to get mad.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's a lot of things that will surprise you that, you know, you weren't expecting at the time, or you would have to make sure that I mean, these were the soldiers that we didn't get inoculated before. We wouldn't get the shots within us to numb our senses. We had all of our senses with these groups, with these teenagers.
I didn't have shots. My faction, we drank black goo, and it enhanced everything while shutting off your empathy.
Right. But I remember wherever I sent them, they didn't have any of that. They went in raw. So they didn't have their senses numbed and dulled. I wanted to see what they were going to do without it, and see what they were made of.
How did they do?
Half fared well. Half of them, you know.
Half of them did good. Okay, that's better than I thought that they would. So yeah, some of the raw recruits, their first time out, you lose all of them.
Yeah.
And with Nacht Waffen, we would drag their bodies back to base, regenerate them, and say, "Did you learn something?"
Right. I'm all, because it's one of those things. Well, let's go do it again until you got it down packed. I was brutal.
I was terrible to my kids on Earth, because when they would do something really stupid, that same "did you learn something" would come pouring out of my mouth.
Yeah, but it is much better, I don't know if it's even much better. Getting those inoculations and having your senses numbed, especially when you're in a really grueling battle and you need all your focus, all your wits, and you're there to look after the ones that are next to you and everyone around. So at that point, in those situations, it was good to have had that.
Yeah. There are times that being numbed saves your sanity. And then there are other times that being numbed doesn't help at all.
No.
And it just depends on the circumstances. And I think that some of these groups use the numbing too much.
Too much. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things out there that will really mess you up and really traumatize you. So, and then you get things that will haunt you and won't leave you alone. But I do remember after battles, going back on the ship, oh my God, we were wild. We were like wild animals. Just getting that, it's like having that pump. You have that pump right after battle and just blowing off steam. We were very rambunctious, but we were only allowed that for a certain amount of time until it wears off, and then you're right back into
prepping for the next one.
Yep. Yeah. And
usually I would end up in regen, and by the time I got out, that would have worn off.
Mm-hmm.
I must not have been terribly good at it, because I kept ending up in regen.
Yeah, but you fight until you can't fight anymore. Exactly. So it wouldn't be uncommon not to be ending up in regen, because that's what they want you to do. They want you to fight until you can't.
You're not allowed to run.
Right. No.
They'll shoot you themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're not shooting you with a .22 caliber. They're shooting you with an energy weapon that takes out a half to or more of your body.
Yeah. Pulverized.
You're gone. There's just enough left of you to
parts of you.
Regen. And I swear sometimes they regened me from blood samples.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's like, hey, I'm missing that part. You guys didn't put it in, But yeah, it's
it does something to you to be regened too many times. And it enforces the idea that death is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's no way out.
There's no way out. You're trapped. Death is not even an option, because you'll just wake up in the damn tank.
Right.
And you get this attitude of,
you just don't care.
You don't care, because there's no escape. It's just constantly do-over. Mm-hmm. The details may change, but it's same shit, different day.
Exactly. And it happens for years upon years upon years. It just doesn't stop.
It never stops.
Mm-mm.
And
and I'm wondering if that's why we have so many health problems when we're here.
I
It's
think
because
it is.
of all of that.
I recently terrorized a newbie, and I didn't think about it until afterwards. It's someone who's just coming to me with her memories, and she picked a day that I didn't want to hear it. And she was quite aggressive about it.
Mhm.
And I get frustrated with the ones that don't respect my no.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally just said, look, I've done 90, 60 and backs with Nacht Waffen alone. And
Mhm.
I don't even have memories of all my altars.
Mhm.
And she says, I've never heard of anybody having more than one or two. Well, sorry, you're not remembering yet. They
Right.
take you as a toddler and they use you the rest of your life. Think about it. If you
You're in it for life.
if you put out millions of dollars in developing and training a robot,
Mhm.
are you going to use it once?
Mhm.
And they consider us like those robots.
Mhm.
They're going to get their money's worth.
Right.
That they put in the time and effort to develop us, to train us, and each and split us into altars that they have sold to different agencies. And everybody is going to get their money's worth. You're
Right.
going to be used until there's nothing fucking left.
Right. And in here, I always say that my soul is tired.
Yeah.
My soul is tired. And a lot of people don't understand when I say that, but it's tired. And when there's certain challenges that happen here, you're just, and you remember what happens out there, you're just like, if I do something here, are they just going to beam me up and take me back over there and use me again? Or what are they going to do to me here, you know?
Oberkommando. Okay, that's German High Command in German. Oberkommando. They informed me one day, well, when you die on Earth, we're just going to
They're just going to snatch you up.
We're going to re-telephone to just a few minutes before you die, and we're going to snatch you, and you're going to end up in regen on Mars, and we're going to keep you until you can no longer be regened.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I
And
have that knowledge.
They thought that was going to make me feel wanted and loved and appreciated. All it did was make me feel trapped.
Like a caged animal that you have. They make you feel like you have options, but they are choosing, well, your options are with these few that we're giving you to make you feel like you have some sort of freedom and choice, but you really don't. No, because all of them are exactly the way they want it to be.
Yeah. It's like voting on Earth. All of the options are pre-chosen and acceptable to the powers that be.
Right. Right.
And trying to tell people that is also like trying to tell someone that you grew up on Mars first. It goes in one ear, gain speed on the way out.
Right. It's like, unacknowledged. What? No.
It's like, you said what?
Right.
I see it in their eyes. They don't always say it out of their mouths, but enough of them do. Mm-hmm. It's like, are you crazy?
Well, when I first had saw that you had written that, I went, right on, you know. Like, oh, somebody's saying something, right on, you know. I thought it was great. It was wonderful. But on top of not ever getting, you know, when you're in it, it's in for life. You're no matter what you do, where you're at, you're in it for life. And even, let's see.
Even if you appear to be in a coma, in a hospital bed. They can pull you out, pop you into regen right off the bat. You're suddenly 25, pretty healthy, and whatever they want you to be for the next however long they want to have you, and then
pop right back in.
Pop you right back into being in a coma.
Yeah.
And that concept baffles people because they can't see how it's done. Time travel, personal portals, age regression, regen, which is a form of regen tech. You know, all of that has been available to the higher levels of the military since the 1940s. Everything you think you know about the state of science and technology on the surface of Earth is a lie.
Usually.
And every time I start talking, I interviewed Shane Bales the other day, and we talked about a specific type of test for what he calls the joy. And yesterday, there was a person pontificating on that video on my YouTube about, well, Penny, you weren't a child in the 1980s, and you know that such and such and such and such and such and such. And I'm like, are these people completely missing the point of what we're talking about?
Right.
They are completely focusing in on some tiny, tiny little something that they can nitpick about, and they're completely missing the point that there are programs that are 100 years ahead in technology or more, that some of them have had extraterrestrial help to get there, that the science on Earth has been artificially retarded so that it doesn't overlap, because it's against the law for you to have an invention that overlaps with those programs by more than 80%. So anything that's in that program, you can't have it here. They'll put your ass in prison.
Right.
And I'm looking at this and going, you guys are completely missing the point. The point being that not only are these inventions that would revolutionize your life being kept from you, but your children are being kidnapped out of their beds to go serve in this fucking military that we have no business fighting in these wars. Why are we fighting on both sides of 6 extraterrestrial wars?
It's like they can't get enough war.
Yeah, like they don't have enough war here.
Right. Which they create for.
They create for economic reasons. Because they get rich no matter which side wins.
Right.
So it's just like, what the hell is the problem with this? You look at Earth history, it's war, 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 war. And you look at space history as we know it, and it's war, 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 war. And now you talk about it and your internet gets glitched and you get shut up and your vehicle gets messed with and your power goes off at your house. Your phone suddenly stops working. I've bought 3 cell phones. They've all died within 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't even bother anymore. Lou has one, I don't. So, it's like constant bullshit just to talk about it.
Right.
And people I know have been killed
Mhm.
because I was talking.
Mhm.
I've had 4 friends and 4 counseling people.
Right.
You know, folks, don't come to me for counseling. I stopped 3 years ago.
And I wanted to say this also, when I'm talking about being triggered for suicide and stuff like that, I am not suicidal.
Mm-mm.
I don't want somebody to think if something did happen to me and it looked like suicide, I am not suicidal.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
I will admit that having had a concussion headache for a year and going into major surgery where my neck was cut open, if I had woke up after that surgery and still had that concussion headache,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here now.
Mhm.
But there are a lot of people my age and older who understand where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
That's not the same as a young person being suicidal.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I woke up without the headache.
Mhm.
So I'm still here. So you're stuck with me till the next thing. Yeah, so,
Uh,
and
yeah.
there are folks in our community who are disinfo agents, and they will hear something like that and jump on it.
Mhm.
And there are folks in our community who are egotistical and think that they're entitled to fame and money, which none of us are getting.
You don't get rich this way, no.
This is not how to get rich and to become
No.
famous.
This is all
People,
volunteer work, you know.
yeah, this is volunteer work.
Right.
And if you manage to get famous, it's that crazy bitch that
Right.
she went to Mars. That's how people talk about me, that crazy bitch that thinks she went to Mars. So, yeah. This isn't someplace you want to go. I'm sorry. I get on a rant about that because there are people who have just gone absolutely off the deep end attacking others because they think they're entitled to be rich and famous
Right.
because they were in a black op.
Mhm. And twist and manipulate and just
Yeah, and it turns into, I do not know what you people are thinking. I'm sorry.
All right, what do we want to talk about next?
Yeah, we have a whole 50 minutes.
Let's see. I'm expecting I think our satellites are probably going to get hacked here in the near future and used against us. I've seen that version.
I have seen the version where certain folks with psionic abilities deliberately fried a bunch of those.
No.
And no, I'm not naming names.
Yeah. The mostly the ones that I've seen are more of directed energy weapons. You know, you can see the points hitting here on Earth and starting chaos. But there are certain targeted areas that they're going to want to hit next. And
I've seen certain whistleblowers get targeted with the satellites. And in fact, that happened, I believe, February. and a group of whistleblowers with psionic abilities took out at least one satellite, possibly more.
Mhm.
Self-defense.
Yeah. Mhm.
What the public does not understand is that psionic abilities are electrical. Human beings are electrical animals. Our brains operate through electrical frequencies, and we produce a energy field in a toroidal shape around our brain and our heart. So we have two focuses, foci of this electrical field. And what we are taught as psionics is how to control that electricity. And some of us remember how to do that here.
Mhm.
Like you were doing in the description of trapping people
Mhm.
that were criminals, convincing them to go elsewhere.
Mhm.
Telepathy is an electrical field.
Mhm.
And the strength is in the field, not the current. And you can add data to that field. And then it doesn't go like this, it goes like this.
Mhm.
And explaining that to people who have no idea of electricity or how electronics actually works, and then they go off into metaphysics, and you end up with something that makes no sense at all.
Mhm.
And
I mean, I used to fry electronics all the time. Oh my goodness. I remember putting up my hand up against, I had these crystals hanging, and I got mad one time, and they were just swinging like crazy, and I put my hand up like that, and it just exploded everywhere. Oh my goodness. And I remember going to a friend's house, and I would talk with my hands. Well, things would fly off of her shelves and break. She told me I had to sit on my hands, not move my hands around. Like,
I was upset about something, and I was at a neighbor's apartment, and she had her front door open, and our screen doors have about 1.5 inches at the bottom that's open. And suddenly I noticed leaves were coming in because I was pissed. And she says, she just looks at me, what kind of witch are you? Because the angrier I got, the bigger the whirlwind in the courtyard got. And
well, that's funny because I have a family member that does that. I had a necklace, and she wanted it, and I'm like, no, I made it, it's mine, right? It literally was like a twister came through until I handed it to her, and then it would stop. And then she would immediately, and then she would hand it back to me, and it would start back up again. And then I would hand it to her, and it would stop. And I'm like, okay, fine, you can have it now. You know? So yeah.
You wanted that bad, fine.
Right, go ahead, have it. Right, exactly.
Yeah. And you tell normals this.
No.
And their eyes get real big and they back away. And from that point on, you go outside, they see you, they go in their apartment, they shut the door in your face.
Shut the door. This is normal for our lives, though. So
it is.
It's very easy and casual to talk about it because it's in our daily lives. And I remember at a point where I can hear people's thoughts. So when they're thinking, I can hear it, but it sounds like they're talking outwardly. And I had my back turned and somebody was thinking something, and I turned around and I said, "Excuse me, what did you say?" And they're like, "Oh my God." But it can get very distracting.
I've been on interviews with people where their thoughts were so loud.
Yeah.
And so hostile. And what was coming out of their physical mouth was like honey wouldn't melt.
Right.
And I'm like, finally, the split would get to be too much for me, and I would blurt something out, and they would say, "You can't read my thoughts."
Right. Right. Or that, let me test you. Let me, try this. And I'm like, don't.
Please don't.
And then when you say that, then people start getting fearful around you, because a lot of people have secrets.
Yeah, but
but I'm not intruding. It's what they're blasting out.
Exactly. It when you're trained like we are and have these abilities like we do, there are protocols for dealing with normals. If we are not assigned to keep up with what you're doing, you have the presumption of privacy in your own head. I do my best to not listen, and I sure don't go prying in and picking through what's in the back of your mind. I don't even want to hear what's in the front of your mind.
Exactly.
Most of them it's, I got to go to the bathroom. Gee, I'm hungry. What is there? I want a beer.
Right.
Damn, I'd hit that.
Right. Right.
It's pure animal level stuff, and I see no reason to deal with that. And I hope people are not reading me without my permission.
Right, exactly.
And there was something I did in the last, it was an interview I did with one of the guys. And one of his friends comes up with, "Well, I read both of you and she's dark." I'm like, come on, people.
No, I just have you blocked. No.
like, come on, people. I have shielding.
Right.
I actually have mirrored shielding up. So if you are reading me, you are not reading me. You're seeing your own damn self in the mirror.
You know what also
if you think I'm dark, that tells me that you are.
Right, exactly. And with these abilities, though, I've noticed when I had my own practice that it's so much easier to be a medical intuitive. I don't know if that's just my intuitive empathicness, but I can sense and feel things in people. And just like with certain family members, I can say, "Hey, you need to go to the doctor to get this checked because I see this, this, and this,"
I used to do home health care, and I would know when they really needed to go see the doctor.
Yeah.
And I would know whenever they were past needing to see the doctor and that nothing was going to help.
Right.
And there were several of them that knew their time was coming, and they asked me to walk them over. And how they knew I could do that, I don't know. Now, I did
sense it by then.
I did have Ileana, the Star Traveler, before she started her practice of reading people's memories, she practiced on me. And she gave me 2 sets of identification numbers for me. One was with the DOD stuff, And the other one was something called DEFCON. I have a DEFCON number because I'm that's one of my abilities is to communicate with the dead.
Yeah.
And walk people over. So I'm going along and I'm seeing dead people and they're like, you know.
I've had that my whole life.
They think they're still alive, most of them.
Yeah.
They don't understand why people can't hear them. And then suddenly they find me and I can.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you've been dead a long time.
Yeah. I saw a practitioner and her mom would just jump in all the time. And it was almost like her mom orchestrated us to meet because she needed me to pass on some messages to her daughter. And it just kept going on and on and on. But also I was able to foresee death as well as not just communicate with the passing.
That's something I try to block.
Yeah.
Because I don't handle that information well.
Yeah, there was a lot of times like losing my own children. I knew I was going to lose those children. And at the time, I didn't think that I could do anything about it. But then when another person I had foreseen their death, I started giving them little heads up, you know, start doing this. And they listened. And then, you know, as time went by, that day had come and they said, oh my God, it happened exactly as you said. And if I didn't do what you'd been telling me to do, I wouldn't be here. Now, unfortunately, even with my own father, I knew he was going to pass. And no matter what you say, it still happened. You know, so people have free will. You know.
When my father passed, I knew for a long time ahead of time that he was going to. But I allowed myself hope when he went into surgery and he never came out of the hospital. And that just crushed me because I had let myself hope.
Yeah, so, you know, sometimes you have the abilities and you want to help those that you love, and it still gets you in. No matter what, it's still, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't, and you know it, but then even afterwards, and then when they pass, I mean, I knew the moment my dad passed because he started talking to me and I started seeing him. So, and same with my grandfather. I mean, I knew the day or times where it would have been the day he would pass, and I would say something and it would, you know, he would change it, or I would say, I'm jumping on a plane, I'm going to go and see you. So it prolonged many, many years. Until finally one day, it, you know, circumstances happen and it didn't happen. But as soon as he passed, I was able to talk to him for years as well. So it's kind of comforting in a way. I mean, you still miss him physically, but. You know.
My dad would show up in dreams after he died. And the last one was 10 years after his death. He showed up and sat on the end of my bed and we talked, and he says, I really need to go. Yeah, so he was the first one that I walked with over. And I don't know how other people see it, but I see it as a borderland. And that once you get across the border, that then your family is there and they welcome the person and then I back off, because if I stay, I'm going to be dead. You know? You know.
Yeah.
But I had one family member that she really wanted me to stay, and I'm like, I'll be there when it's time.
Right.
When it's
Exactly.
my time, I'll join you, and for you, it will feel like no time has passed. And she says, okay, I'll hold you to that.
Now, with your abilities, were you able, did you know who your children were before you had them?
I knew I was pregnant before I could test pregnant.
Yeah, I knew that. But I also knew how many children I was going to have, who they were, their names, and what they would grow up to be.
I didn't know any of that. I did have 4 that were taken.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, because that was the time frame that they were taking kids for the breeding program.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder who they turned out to be, especially when I run across someone about that right age that feels like my kid.
Right. See, I have 6. I have 3 that are here, and I have 6. I have a set of twins also.
I have 3 physical children that I was able to keep.
Yep.
And they all have congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which is a Stewart family disease. Yes, people, I admit
it.
I know. Pernicious anemia also is a Stewart family disease, and I have that as well. So,
yeah. Family lines, huh?
Family lines. That I've been doing a couple of story arcs. I mean, people who follow my show have probably figured out that I was doing a story arc about Montauk 2.0. And teaser, Memorial Day weekend, we're doing a round table with the Montauk 2.0 kids. And I call them kids because they're the age to be my kids.
Right.
It's not meant to insult anybody. Hell, they're in their 30s and 40s. They're grown fucking people. How is it that they call it? Grown ass men?
Yeah.
And women?
I laugh sometimes because when my birthday comes around, I'm like, oh, I'm a couple of centuries old, you know. not enough candles on that cake, you know.
I made the mistake of doing the math on how many trips I knew I had made, and it suddenly made sense why my soul was tired.
Yeah, when it got close to 300, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop. Because the numbers just kept going. I'm like, okay.
Mine's in the thousands.
Yeah.
And if I had lived them consecutively, I would be one really old
person.
and it feels like I lived them consecutively.
Right.
But I really lived, they were overlapping in the same time period. So none of them are, so far, none of them are outside of my natural lifespan.
Right.
Except one where I was put into a robot. So she has a 600-year lifespan.
Oof.
All by herself.
Yeah.
600 years trapped in a machine.
Yeah. I know I've done a couple of 20s. I've done a 30. I've done a 60, and I believe 2 90s.
I'm
currently in, well, this last one, they pretty much it's like life. You're just gonna keep in it. it's not gonna end. So I'm so I guess that one is until you know they
Yeah,
can't squeeze any more out of me.
I've had some for Earth agencies that are like recurring. It's like you'll do 2 years this time and 5 years the next time, and they're never longer than 10 years.
Like little stints.
Most of them are assassin altars, where at the end of the job, I end up killing somebody. And some of them I've piggybacked during, and those haunt me. I mean, I see the victim's eyes while they're dying, and that just, I think what worries me the most is I feel my altar's reaction to them dying. And I, Penny, am not a sociopath.
Right.
But that altar definitely is. So,
and that's how it's created, made, and trained to be. That's its use.
It is.
Wanting for it. And
That's exactly what they wanted for it, is to be a stone cold killer. And
we be all kind and gentle here, but
I'm not kind and gentle here. What I am is I genuinely care about people. Yeah. And I'm as gentle as people will let me be.
Yeah, don't mess with me.
But if they decide that they're going to be mean to me, I fight back.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little harder than they bit me.
Right. Right.
You know, that's military training, you know.
Yeah, we're not I guess it's when we're I can say in certain circumstances they have us show our passiveness in a situation until then it's
like a bait and switch.
Right. Right. And then watch out, because if I'm more of a leader and I'm a fighter, but most people see me as the quiet, reserved.
The quiet ones are the ones you gotta watch.
Right. I'm the quiet, reserved one that most people see, but
yeah, what people see on air is that I have this nervous chatter. They don't know that I go all day. I type. I don't talk. I'm typing in Messenger. I'm typing on Facebook. I'm typing on Discord or MeWe or Twitter. I'm typing. I hardly use my mouth to talk at all. I go all day till dinner time, and then I might spend 20 minutes talking to Lou over the table, and the rest of the evening I'm quiet again. And then when I go to talk, I come to the show, I have to talk for a few minutes just to get my voice working.
Right. Well, it's like when we met, I was very just quiet, just kind of listening, didn't say too much. But it's also one of those things where you're, you have a connection through social, and then you have a connection and then in person. And to me, when I'm in person with someone, I feel like, okay, is this a safe space for me? You know, can I talk? Can I be more myself? Can I open up? You know, because I remember you had told me about, I think it was about 3 years ago, um, you know, watch who you trust, watch who you talk to, watch what you say. So that kept in the back of my mind, even when I had actually met you in person.
Yeah, this is not a safe community.
No, it's not.
And when a stranger comes up to me in a Facebook group, and it's a public Facebook group where every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the internet can read it, and they're spilling their innermost secrets, they're either really naive or they're baiting me. And I've gotten to where those people really worry me. The ones that come at me in Messenger, I just tell them I don't do counseling anymore.
Right.
And then they'll just keep talking. And some of them just keep talking for years. And I'm like, I don't do counseling anymore. I woke up one morning with my left shoulder shredded, and I told everybody I'm in too much pain to do counseling. So anyone who has approached me since then, I think there have been 3 people I accepted anyway, and they were not SSP. They were sacrificed children that had not been killed. And that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yeah. Oh, that just gave me.
And that's a territory that there are very, very few people that are willing to help those kids.
Yeah. Oh, I just want to cry.
So, yeah, when you come out and you talk about SSP and you talk about that you are from a bloodline family and you have done the work to know what that actually means, then the people who need your help show up at your door. Literally.
I was going to say sometimes literally, right?
Sometimes literally.
Right.
And so it's like, people think that SSP is the worst thing in the world. It's not. Those kids are.
Yeah.
So it's I have nightmares, some of the things they've shared.
And I remember the things that I was in to stop those things from happening, and the things that would come across when finding children. That's why I said I want to cry, because it just.
Yeah, when
very traumatic.
When I started talking publicly about bloodline practices, 2 of my friends were killed, and all of the sacrificed kids I was counseling were killed. And I stopped talking about the details. Yeah. Because I didn't want anybody else killed. And nobody believed me anyway. It was, well, tell us more, tell us more, tell us more. Like they couldn't get enough of it. And I'm like, you people have no idea. This is not entertainment. No. So those interviews are out there still. They're on Gail of Gaia's channel. if you want the details that I came public with, they're out there, and the, that's as far as I'm going to take it publicly anymore. You want to go to her channel and see it, fine, but
No,
I'm
it's
not
too
gonna.
haunting.
I couldn't hear you.
It's too haunting.
Yeah, it's horrible. The things that you talked about in your bio, as far as hunting down the child traffickers and those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I say things because it's hard for me to believe that those are humans. I know that
There's some are, some aren't.
I know that physically most of them are humans, but I don't think they really are.
No.
And some of the things that you and I have seen, experienced, dealt with survivors of,
Mm-hmm.
are beyond what normals would believe.
They can't comprehend.
Yeah, they can't comprehend that there would be that kind of evil out there, and that it would be basically operating with impunity.
Exactly. And that they would rather just turn their head and blindly say, oh, that doesn't exist.
And
Then
when
there's people like us that are the ones that go out there to
yeah,
stop
and
it.
when I talked about that the galactic economy is based on trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
I had long time whistleblowers argue with me in public and call me on it. And I'm like, really? Your faction doesn't do that. Uh-huh. Okay. And it was like, I'm thinking to myself, just how damn naive are you?
It's everywhere.
Because these people talk about how that they were kidnapped as children and used in these programs, and it never occurred to them that the kids who don't make the cut,
Right.
what happens to them?
Right.
Because we're part of a continuum. And from what I saw in your bio, you were part of the trying to stop what happens to the rest of them.
Yes. From beginning to end is a whole loop of it. I'm not sure where it started. If what I was trained for when I was a kid, if that was part of what they put me in. But yet, when you start with a class of 20, 26, and then you end up with, 12 or 8, they don't tell you what happens to those kids. And then when you're getting trained and deep down inside of you, you don't quit. You don't show exhaustion. You don't give up no matter what. Then obviously there's something internal in there that's telling you you're fighting for your life. Because the second you give up, you're not going to have it. You're not going to make the cut. So
in 1959, when I was brought to Langley, there were over 1,000 of us.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to Mars, there were 20. That's all that was left.
Right.
And the NSA DOD agent who tried to get me killed 3 years ago, she said I was the last of that class that was left. Oh yeah, that's what they called it. The 1964 class from Langley. that I
Like
was
your graduating class, right?
the graduating class. We got the 20 of us who survived got sent to Mars together. Yeah.
I
So,
know when with what I did as a kid, and that's the one I was talking about beforehand, where I was in that like a hangar, like with the classroom and the obstacle course. When we're called in to do whatever mission, it's all of us class, but the leader of that is our instructor. So our instructor goes on those missions with us, and we join in with him.
that's the best way to teach.
Yeah. And I know I'm always to his left. I'm always right to his left. And then there's the rest of us. That we just seem to be lined up, you know. There's a formation we do. But and that's, and we get called in like that on just very rare occasions. It has to be something so big, something that you would call in like the Navy SEALs or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
Special forces, you know, the Rangers,
Yeah.
all of them. It's something like that. Then we
Psionic special forces.
Yeah, pretty much. But our what's unique with our suits though, they almost look like you're a knight, like a knight in armor. And you have these pointed spiked fins that are up on the shoulder blades like this, because if anything comes down, it will spike down within it. But then we have this the metal part that will protect the back of our neck as well. And then our helmet almost looks like a knight's helmet, but it's all high tech, has the visor, you can see everything. And then even the elaborateness of it's etched in the designs that we have even within our suit is.
Gee, I'm almost jealous, because out there it was just normal Aegis body armor. Yes, it's an Earth company.
Group, that's just for this group though, that we have suits that are like that.
That sounds really, really special.
And that's why I didn't know, because of certain lineage and things within my family. I'm not going to mention a lot of the things. I'm wondering if that is why I was within that group. Maybe.
Probably.
I haven't heard anybody else say anything about that kind of a group, and then what we wore and what we did and how we were trained very differently. But like you said, it didn't, you know, the ones that weren't there anymore didn't make the cut. Well, you know, I don't know what happened with them.
I know that some of them in my Langley class of 64, a lot of them went catatonic. And the region will fix the body, but not the mind. And so once they were catatonic, they were gone. And at that point, they were shuffled into the freeze-dried humans as food. Mm-hmm. There are races that eat humans and nothing is wasted.
Yeah, I came across
So,
children that were for that.
yeah, I've seen evidence that they start with children that are abandoned at birth and go to seniors with cancer, and that everything in between is used in the trafficking, and that with the use of regen technologies, and each faction has their own version of that.
Mhm.
But with the use of regen technologies, that they can make you whole and healthy and young, and then use you for whatever they want, no matter what age you are when they start off, or health condition. I don't know about the ones that the Americans use, because I don't have a lot of memory from the American factions. I only remember Nacht Waffen and Kruger.
Mhm.
Kruger is American, but I remember being dead and then being reinstalled in a new clone body, which I'm sure is expensive. Um, I blew
I
up a
guess if you're
clone.
a valuable asset, they don't mind, doing such
I have
things,
been
right?
I have been chewed out for destroying bodies. But I blew up a whole clone factory too
Well, see.
on Mars. Penny was suddenly popped into this altar
Oh, guess what's gonna happen, right?
and freaked out about rows and rows and rows of cyborg bodies and human beings on meat hooks around the edge of the room. And I had a complete panic attack and put out any,
reference fresh off the rack.
yeah. And I put out an EM pulse and blew up the energy. Yeah.
Things happen,
Yeah, it's the place on Mars that they're calling a volcano.
Oh.
That was in 2017 and it's still smoking. Yeah.
So you were the one. No.
Yeah, I was the
You were
one.
the one.
That was me.
Uh,
And James Rink was my commanding officer on that, and he got chewed out because I blew up the base, the factory. It was it was at that point one of the largest cyborg factories in the solar system. And it has not yet been rebuilt completely, another site.
right, right.
But the ones left, there is still one on Mars, and there's at least one on the dark side of the moon, and there's one that's huge on Pluto. And I'm sure there are others, but those are the ones I know about. So.
No comment. No.
I'm saying it. You don't have to. You can sit there and say or yeah. Those are the ones I know about, and I did blow up one of them. So yeah. Since then, they put in some sort of a safety device so that if I do pop into an altar, that I cannot affect their actions. So I'm stuck in a piggyback position where I see and feel everything that goes on without being able to change things. Yes, that's hell on earth.
No.
To watch yourself do something that you consider to be criminal, horrible, and offensive is just
Right.
Yeah, and you're sitting there unable to stop it.
Yeah, that just made me remember, being able to go into other people's minds and actually like see through their eyes,
Mm-hmm.
As if I was there and what they were thinking, what they were doing. But
well, I'm
I could
doing
do that
this.
here. People will tell me about people around here, and I'll say, oh, okay, they're doing this, they're over here, this is their intentions, watch out,
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to time to go. And I would
So much fun.
normally ask if you wanted to give information about people contacting you, but if you're going to back away, there's no point in that.
Yeah, I don't even have anything set up. I'm just going with the flow.
Well, she's in the community, and I know she's in several groups because she's in mine. And I hope you don't leave the community entirely, but
No.
do take care of yourself.
Yes, definitely. Right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this.
I did too. And audience, thank you for listening in.
Bye.
Recording stopped.